This needs some real work. Oh, the cat is on the roof of the car. No, she's flashing, no!
Okay, so I think the first thing we need to do here is take the hood off so that there's better access.
Slashy is still there.
Okay, so I think the first thing we need to do here is take this hood off so that there's better access to the engine and there's better lighting for the camera. So I'm just going to loosen these two bolts, and it's probably going to start to nose down. This is easier with two people. Okay, so I'm just going to gently let it go down. It still has one bolt holding it on one side. The other side, the hinge is gone. It was obviously used as a part for another car. Okay. So just going to support it a bit here. Now she can lift this off and place it on the roof. I'm going to back away for a second. I'm going to see if I can lift this off without pinching my fingers. There she goes. So I found a plate in the car that says March 2000. So it looks like this has been off the road for about 21 years.
Wow, this is old. Wow.
So the first thing we're going to need to do is probably pop the spark plugs out and see what they look like. See if you can get some oil down the cylinder so that when we turn it over, it's not going to damage any of the cylinder walls.
Yeah.
So we got one spark plug wire. The rest are basically just hanging off the distributor cap. There's no coil wire, but there is a coil. Oh, the coil has a boot on it, but nothing else. Somebody has removed the gas tank line from the fuel pump, which is good. The condenser is off. There's no wiring whatsoever on the coil. That's going to be a problem. Okay, first things first. And obviously there's no battery in this, so there's nothing to worry about as far as power. But I got the wrong spark plug wrench. Okay, so I popped all the spark plugs out. They were all in there just finger tight, and they're just totally black. I don't know if you can see that. There's some oil on the threads, so that leads me to believe that somebody years ago sprayed some oil in the cylinders, which is good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spray a little bit of oil in the cylinders because it looks like there's already some in there. And then I'm going to see if I can turn it over, which is going to be a bit interesting because there's no belts, there's no alternator. Let me just see if I can change the camera view. So yeah, here's a picture of the front of the engine. So there's no water, there's a water pump but no pulley, no fan. There's a fan laying there. No radiator, no alternator. This is a manual steering car, so there's no manual, or there's no power steering pump. Motor mounts are shot. There's a harmonic balancer, so if I can maybe get a belt on that, I might be able to try to turn it over by just pulling on the belt. Okay, so I just want to pause at this point, and in case people are wondering, like, why wouldn't you just put a breaker bar on the crank pulley bolt? On a Slant 6, at least on this one, there is no crank pulley bolt in the middle of the harmonic balancer, so there's nothing there to attach a socket to. So I just thought I'd pause the video at this moment and just explain why I was considering using a belt to turn the motor over. I don't know if I have one of those belts. There's a carb. I'm just going to back this up here and see if it'll... So yeah, there's a 1-barrel carb. There's a bunch of emission stuff. Manual brakes, manual steering. So yeah, let me put some oil down the cylinders and then I'll see if I can get a belt to see if it'll turn over. So I was taking a look at the car here, and the starter has absolutely no wires on it. So I was looking at another car here and I found an old starter. Let's see if I can zoom out a bit here. It just happens to have a cable on it, so I'm going to see what I can do to remove that from there and then attach it to this car so we can at least give it a try and see if it'll fire up. So this bigger one was half inch, and this little guy's 11 seconds. And that's a loose leads. 5 seconds. So there's that. And that wires off. So now it's a matter of popping this over here. There's no starter relay, so that's all on. Pop those guys on. Just get it a little after you go in here. It's going to see foam deep creep or something like that. It should work. Now think about what you need. Make sure there was a good connection, but I'm going to try and see if that's required. I'll have to go do that later. Don't really have any sandpaper out here in the field. Noticing now as well, there's no ballast resistor. There really is nothing on this car that hasn't been scavenged, apart from the engine itself. So to prepare for this rescue, I went on to Rock Auto and just tried to guess what I might need. So I just picked a little bit of everything and let's see what I got. So it looks like an air filter. Yep, air filter. We got a Wix air filter. Oh, got a Bosch oil filter, distributor cap and rotor. So yeah, Slant 6 distributor cap and rotor there. Put those back for the moment. Oh, got some spark plugs. Hope these are the right ones. There's different Slant 6s that take different large and small spark plugs. That looks like a PCV valve. That's probably vicious. Well, we got a fuel filter. That's, if we end up getting it running, that'll be necessary, but not in the beginning. Here's a couple of magnets. Oh, there's 4 spark plugs. That looks like everything that I got from Rock Auto to try to get this thing running. I got a ballast resistor. I brought one that I had on hand. Let me just go grab the parts I brought that weren't from Rock Auto. Yeah, so brought a bunch of spark plug wires that I had just laying around that I had changed in the past. That are probably, some of them are probably still good. Just when you do a tune-up, you just change them out because it's relatively cheap to do. I got a fuel pump that I think this was a fairly new fuel pump that got changed out. Probably preventative maintenance, but I think this one still works, so if necessary I'll end up putting that on. I've got a ignition switch and a starter button that I'll wire up to be able to start the car and to turn on and off the coil. There's the ballast resistor I was talking about. I think I brought, yeah. I got the one with two, just in case. I know they're not the same impedance, but can always use the other side if necessary. I brought a yoke in case the transmission doesn't have one in it, so it doesn't, hopefully doesn't leak out everywhere and it has any fluid in it. Yeah, that's the resistor back. Got a multimeter. A few chunks of fuel line, and we got some alligator clips if necessary, and a chunk of upper rad hose. Okay, so let's see what we got for an air cleaner here. See if there's a mouse in here. Oh no, it's actually pretty clean. The air filter is really greasy and oily for some reason. That's garbage. Linkage moves. Oh yeah. Wow, that actually, it's a little sticky. Oops. A little sticky, so throttle cable's missing. Normally would come through there, I think. Oh, here it is. There's the throttle cable. We won't really need that. Not sure why is that off? There's all cobwebs in here. Everything a little oil. Let's see if that moves a little more freely. Accelerator pump hardly moves. Is that how much it's supposed to move? This is a Holly carb. I think these normally came with the BBD Carter. There's a spring right here. like somebody was running this via the string there. Check the oil, man, that is bent. Okay, it's dirty, but it's full. Let's see if it's got any. Oh yeah, it's got viscosity to it. That should be good enough to start it anyways. Okay, so I'm going to try to set up this ignition switch with a starter button, and I was going to use this for oil pressure, that light. And then I guess these will light up when it's when there's power to the ignition circuit. So got this starter relay which can handle, I think, 40 amps. So I believe that should work for the solenoid cable. If somebody knows for sure, let me know. So what I need here, I need power, I need ground. So the red is obviously power. Black, I would guess, is ground. So for the next few minutes of the video, I basically just attempt to wire up the control panel, and basically I just wanted the switch to control the ignition 12 volts through the ballast resistor, and have the starter button control the starter motor by sending 12 volts to the solenoid. So if anybody's interested in the circuit diagram, let me know. I can draw something up and send it to you, but otherwise I'm just going to skip ahead to the point where I have it all figured out and wired up. Okay, so got this wired up. So that's off. That turns on the ignition. That turns this wire hot. This will go to the coil eventually through the ballast resistor. Right now we're taking power from here, which is from the factory harness. This is the solenoid. So if I hit this engine start, we should see it try to turn over. So it's using this as a starter solenoid because the original one's gone. Oh, that doesn't sound good.
I think that's the way they sound.
Yeah, all the spark plugs are out, so there's no compression right now. So it is turning over. I don't hear any like banging. So yeah, let me just let me just shut it off. Let me move this fan blade out of there. So let's try that again. Just make sure there's no nasty sounds. Bees are not liking that. Yeah, it turns over nice.
That was a nice engine.
So I think the next order of business here, just put the spark plugs back in, power up the coil, see if it'll fire off.
You think just fuel it?
Okay, so that's right there. Just get in your way. Move it down pretty close. Because I got bring it to the cap. That's what I need. There's spark plugs going in, so that's good. Nice, turn it quick. Nice. You're in the top anyways. Let's start with the exact direction. Then we'll wire on. Power coil. See if you got the spark. So yeah, bring it over the spark plugs. Yeah, there's no coil in cylinders. That should be going now. Let's take it down. Okay, so put 6 spark plugs in. So now I'm just gonna turn it over and see if it sounds like it's got compression. Yeah, that sounds like there's compression there. Okay, so the new air filter in. So it was at this point that I realized that this car has electronic ignition. And I also realized that if you take a look at this control box, there is absolutely no wiring going from this box to the coil or anywhere else. So that put an end to the efforts on this particular day, and I needed to go back and wire up a harness to connect the control box to the coil. So that's going to do it for this episode, and I will continue on in the next one to see if we can't get this engine to fire off.